Three types of mud motors and how to pick the one that's right for you. The first is a tie longtail, like you see I have here. It's literally just a go-kart engine with a 7 or 10 foot tail on it. Direct drive, bolt on and go. Very, very simple. The second type of motor is what you call an American beaver tail. Very similar principle, but the tail is much shorter, probably half the length of this, but actually is connected to a U-joint that makes it much shallower. It makes it much steeper angle down to the water. Things like Go Devil or like this, or I think Backwater has a beaver tail like this. Third type of mud motor is what I call surface drive. Typically use much bigger horsepower engines. Instead of 6.5 horsepower and up to 15 horsepower, maybe 20, 22 horsepower. They're using 30, 40 horsepower engines, and they're the most like traditional outboards I've seen. Bolts on just like this, horizontal shaft, but it goes into what is essentially a very simple gearbox where you have a gear here, a sprocket here, and a sprocket down here and a chain. And then there's a straight shaft just like this handle coming out from the foot. So it's not a foot like a gear drive like in a traditional outboard. So it can still take the same kind of abuse that this guy can take, but is a whole lot more powerful and can really truly plow through the mud, a true mud motor. Well, the tie longtail is the simplest. It's the simplest in terms of the drive. It's just direct connection. There's no U-joints, there's no gearboxes, there's no nothing. There's just direct connect. What that does is it makes a surface piercing propeller where the propeller rides in the crest of the wake of the boat. Surface piercing propellers are very efficient. That's very easy to work on. Disadvantage is, it's 7 feet long. It's 10 feet long, and you have to really relearn how to run the motor. Second, if you have any kind of shoulder problems or elbow problems or arm problems, like you got arthritis or something like that, this motor is not, if you don't have the upper body strength, you just won't be able to run this motor. Although the good kits like the SPSs and even the Beaver Dams, these guys are going to be balanced, it still requires some more upper body strength than any of the other types. Fellas, I love Thailand outboards. Check out the guys over at Beaver Dam Mud Runners. He has these really cool grab bars that you can mount in your boat. He actually makes those stateside, and he imports CLP. The Longtail is really an outboard engine that can run over mud or through mud or weeds like that. Okay, we call them mud motors, but over there they're just outboard motors. This is just what people use all the time. Beaver tail motors, I haven't used them, so I can't comment on their use, but I will say the angle U-joint that takes that outward shaft and makes it bend down. Well, now you're introducing more complicated parts to the drive mechanism. That means parts that could fail, although when's the last time you heard of a U-joint failing like on your drive shaft, right? It's not parallel, right? The power, the thrust is not coming parallel with the boat, and so it's more vertical, and so it tends to want to make the nose plow down. And typically I've heard, because it's so short and the propeller is not all the way back into the wake, you have to often use more horsepower to have the same performance as you would with this, and you'll also have to have cavitation plates that add drag. The surface drive, now of everything I've seen, the surface drive is what I consider a true mud motor. It's designed to get in thick, soupy mud and plow through, whereas this design, you kind of need to get up on a plane and it'll just kind of plane you up over it. You can plow through some things, but these little ones don't have enough torque. You need to get the bigger ones, the big mud motors. Those things can plow through anything. It doesn't matter. The whole foot of the motor sunk down into the mud, and it will just plow you straight through it and not even think about it, right? Whereas this one, you're having to get up RPM and plow it down and trying to get a good bite on it. I've seen guys use big surface drives, just catfishing the same way I'm doing. The engines themselves don't really care much about the medium you're pushing them through. They just push. Thing is, the lowest cost you're going to find is on the longtails. The highest cost is going to be on the surface drives. The surface drives are pretty neat because some of those units will have, forward and neutral and reverse, but they're just as tough. And quite honestly, these longtails, are not the most compatible with these American John boats. That's the whole reason I'm doing Project Mud Boat. So if you're looking for something low cost, reliable, dependable, and easy to maintain, you can learn how to fix it yourself. My recommendation is a Thai Longtail. If you're just wanting brute power, brute torque, to just plow through anything, I would get a surface drive. And if you're wanting some compromise sort of between the middle, then I think the American Beaver Tails is really it. Those are the three types of mud motors, and which one to pick is best for you.